Today's webinar topic, the COVID world, opportunities and management shifts. And we are privileged and honored to have presence of an eminent speaker, none other than Global Vice President of Corporate Business Development of HMD Global, Mr. Ajey Mehta from Delhi. Respected Chief Guest, Office Bearers of TMA, past presidents of TMA, managing committee members, members of TMA, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Extremely delighted to welcome all of you to today's webinar. Today's topic for webinar is the COVID world, opportunities and management shifts. As TMA is concerned, COVID is a challenge for conducting our physical meeting. But same time, it is an opportunity also, because otherwise it will be very difficult to get such an eminent personalities like Mr. Ajey Mehta from Delhi to attend our normal meeting, a physical meeting, the travel time and all. Now, due to the webinar meeting, Mr. Ajey Mehta is addressing our members of TMA. So one way it is an opportunity to bring more such talented management gurus to Kerala, especially the cultural capital of Thrissur, to disseminate the best management practices prevalent in other parts of the country and globe for our members. When we contacted Mr. Ajey Mehta through our AMA director and my good friend Mr. Sanjay Grover, he readily accepted our invitation and agreed to spend his precious time with us. Mr. Ajey Mehta is the Global Vice President of HMD Global, a unicorn company which took over the business of Nokia. Ajay has spent more than a decade working with Nokia and Microsoft. He has held various senior leadership positions in business, sales, and retail. He was a country head India with HMD Global when Nokia relaunched their devices in Android platform in India. His vision is going to build India as a global manufacturing and supply chain hub for Nokia devices. So India going to be the global manufacturing and supply chain hub for all Nokia devices. As a VP, Vice President and Region Head of Asia Pacific and India HMD Global, Ajay was responsible for driving the strategy, operations, business for Nokia devices. In his former role, he has spearheaded business as head of Microsoft mobile devices in India, head of sales operations India, Middle East and Africa, Nokia, and Vice President Middle East and North Africa for Nokia also. He was instrumental in conceptualizing and implementing Nokia devices retail strategy globally as a leader in the global retail sales and development team of Nokia. Moreover, Ajay is a member of National Management Council of our AIMA, All India Management Association, and also in the board of Finnish Chamber of Commerce in India. Ajay is a mechanical engineer from IIT, Indian Institute of Madras, and with a MBA in Marketing and Finance from Indian Institute of Management, IIM Calcutta. A truly global professional, Ajay has worked in 4 continents, and he was the general manager for commercial beverages in Coca-Cola, and he started his career in ITC Limited. We are very proud and privileged to get such an eminent faculty to address our TMA members. And on behalf of TMA and all the participants here, extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajey Mehta. I also welcome past presidents of TMA, managing committee members, members of TMA, and all the invited guests to this program. The COVID world, opportunities and management shifts. So excellent topic for the time being, I wish all of you a fruitful session ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to Ajay Mehta.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
screen
Soni.
is always, yeah.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'm really humbled by your kind words. So thank you so much. I'm sure I deserve those kind words, but thank you very much for those kind words. It's really an honor and a privilege. And the minute Sanjay asked me about this session, of course, there was no way that I would have passed this opportunity to speak to all of you. So thank you very much for inviting me, and it's really a privilege to be here. So I'll start off. I have some slides. I assume you can see my slides.
Yes.
In case my connection fails, I may just switch my camera off because sometimes, the connection can become a little weak. So I might switch it off, but right now I'm leaving it on. So let me start with my. So pandemics have been there around the world for many, many years, and we've had multiple pandemics that have really permanently changed human lives. Now, if I just do a quick recap in history, if you see in 165 AD, there was what was known as the Antonine Plague, in which there were 5 million casualties. It was during that time that there was a civil war in the Roman Empire. There was a renewed spirituality, and they say that as a result of the spirituality, monotheism was one of the outcomes of that, which accelerated. It was already there, but it accelerated. Similarly, in 541 AD, there was the plague of Justinian, which cost 30 million lives, resulted in the fall of the Byzantine Empire. The Black Death of 1340 and wiped out almost 40% of Europe. It was then that labor costs in Europe started to rise, and it was then that the practice of quarantine, which meant 40 days that ships had to wait at the docks for 40 days, for meaning for, the concept of quarantine started. Similarly, in 1520, there was smallpox. 56 million casualties led to the discovery of the first vaccine, which eradicated smallpox from the face of the earth. The Spanish flu in 1918 and 1919, exactly 100 years ago, cost 50 million lives globally, 18 million in India. It actually is seen to be one of the sparks for the anti-British movement in India. Immediately after this, because of the apathy of the British government, there was a movement amongst the Indian citizens, and the Rowlatt Act was passed, which could crush any movement by the citizens. And then you had the Jallianwala Bagh, and the rest, of course, is history. So one of the sparks, according to history, was the Spanish flu, and the way that the government treated its citizens at that point in time. I've switched off my camera because I can see that the connection may just be a little unstable. Moving on. HIV/AIDS from 1981, 35 million casualties resulted in a lot of lifestyle changes. So pandemics, the history of pandemics have been such that they've really changed human lives permanently. It's rebooted in many ways the life of human beings at that point in time. And we are facing something similar. The COVID-19, 2019-20, as of this morning, there were 6.26 million infected, 198,000 in India, 375,000 fatalities, 5,600 in India. And of course, the recovery rate, which is the good part, is about 30 to 40%. In India, of course, it's on the higher side. So this is what it is. This is the reality. And this reality has really changed our world over the last 6 to 8 weeks. How has it changed? 80% of most countries have been under lockdown. And as a result, livelihoods have been impacted. The world GDP in Q1 shrank by 1.3%. China shrank by 6.8%. US shrank by 4.8%. India was at a 3.1% annual GDP, Q1 GDP, which was at 11-year low. And today, the news is that Moody's has downgraded India to Baa3, which is at a 22-year low. And the stock markets have taken a hit. So these are unprecedented circumstances from an economy standpoint. How has it changed human behavior? There's been an increase of data usage by almost 30% across India because of people being more on their devices. There's an increase of up to 1.5%, 1.5 hours on the phone. There is an increase of almost 280 minutes a week is what we are spending today on social media, as per the studies. We are now really back to basics. We are focusing on health, food, medicals, personal health and safety. So really the discretionary spends have all been put on hold, entertainment is on hold, and we've actually gone to the lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy of need and taking care of our own health and our own near and dear ones. So within a few weeks, there's been a real dramatic shift in the mindset of the people. Some good things, the environment has of course been impacted positively. Delhi AQI, which is notorious, has dropped by 80% during that period. Drop of carbon dioxide emissions, the lowest in 40 years. We've heard of stories where animals have suddenly found themselves, coming into the cities, closing in on the shores. There are dolphins and flamingos that you can see on the western coast of India. Oil crisis has of course been hit, and the futures have dropped to negative for the first time. So unprecedented circumstances, some good, some not so good. I think from a nature standpoint, from an environment standpoint, it's good. From an economy standpoint, it's been difficult. It has resulted in the classic debate between lives and livelihoods. But what really happens, even when we are hearing of us, people are talking about lockdown 5.0, other people are calling it unlock 1.0. The reality is that when we go back, we will go back to a 90% economy. A 90% economy, as the economist says, is basically travel tourism down by 30-35%, consumption down by 20-30%, discretionary spend down by 50 to 60%. People will be less averse to migration. So there'll be a very different economy that we will be opening up into, which will provide, of course, there will be some challenges, but of course, with challenges come opportunities. And there will be a lot of opportunities, because I firmly believe that consumers do not stop consumption. They just change their their behavior. So the behavior changes, the consumption does not necessarily change. It will take maybe some time to get back, but I am very confident that things will come back. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So life as we know it will not be the same again. As per the IMF, this was what the GDP of the world is going to look like, a negative 3%. Of course, there have been various other forecasts. Even the IMF is re-looking at their forecast, but the official numbers say that the world output will be at negative 3%, but bounce back in 2021 with a plus 5.8%. You can see the India number and the China number are still shown as positive for 2020, but there are a lot of theories to state that India will contract in 2020, 2021, but will bounce back quite sharply in the following financial year. Some industries are likely to have it better than others. If you see the ones that have already been impacted are the aviation, real estate, hospitality, entertainment industries. I believe that they will be severely impacted, and they will take some time to get back, maybe 12 to 18 months, because people are going to be careful. They're not going to travel unless it's absolutely necessary. They're not going to go on entertainment, on holidays, unless it's absolutely necessary, because until there is a vaccine and until there is immunity amongst the population, people are going to be a little scared to move out. Consumer and retail, as you know, have been severely impacted, but I do believe that the minute the lockdown opens, I think that should start coming back a lot faster. There are other industries that have been less impacted, industries like agriculture. We actually had a bumper crop last season. And the supply chain, etc., has worked well. A lot of digital platforms have actually started coming to the fore in managing the transaction and the commercial transactions of agricultural produce. The government also has deregulated some of the sectors. So agriculture, we do expect, will come back fast. IT services, in fact, have started to grow because it kind of propagates a contactless society. So I'm like Mr. Soni said, I am able to address you over this purely on the back of very, very strong IT infrastructure and services. Pharmaceuticals, of course, are need of the hour, are medicines and medication. So that is not going to go away in a hurry. That will be back. And then telecom services, which provides the pipes for this contactless engagement, I believe is going to be back in the short term. And you are seeing the investments that are coming into India, and specifically to Jio and to Airtel and so on. And even for Voda, there have been a lot of companies that have expressed interest in investment in them, merely because they do see opportunity in telecom services going forward. So there, you should expect some shifts, some paradigm shifts that are likely to happen. And I state not all, but some of them over here. Firstly, e-commerce will accelerate. You will see more and more acceleration of e-commerce. E-commerce is already a sizable share of our overall retail. It's close to $100 billion in 2020. It's looking to grow to $200 billion in the next 3 to 4 years. We will see air travel to become a luxury unless the government controls the pricing as they are doing right now. But it will become definitely, there'll be less crowded, there'll be less crowds at the airport and less lines at the airport because people will be a little wary to travel in this period. There will be universal access to learning. I dare say that our whole education system is looking to get disrupted. I mean, I'm going to be a little bold to say that our traditional way of education, which is high school, college, undergrad, postgrad, and then work, will actually get replaced by a competence building, skill development type of education, where people will have, students will have unlimited access to very, very good education programs online, and they will be able to sit anywhere in the world. You don't have to travel across the globe to get a good education. You can sit at the comfort of your bedroom and get a good education. And these massive online open courses, which is MOOCs as they are called, are gaining even more popularity thanks to COVID. It was gaining popularity, but I think what COVID has done has accelerated that over the last couple of months. I do expect governments to become more interventionist and protectionist merely because safety is going to gain precedence over privacy. We've already seen the various debates that are going on over Arogya Setu and other such tools that are being used by the government. But the fact is that, when you are operating at the lowest level of the need hierarchy and the Maslow's need hierarchy, you want your safety and your security over anything else. So governments will play a bigger role, as you can already see. There have already been huge bailouts that have been handed out by governments across the world. There have been also huge policies that have been put in place to focus on the safety of the people, at least for now. Of course, as things get better and things open up, I'm sure there will be a more balanced approach than it is today. Having a taste of clean environment, clean air, I do expect governments to focus on renewables going forward. Last but not the least, China as the factory of the world is likely to be questioned. People will hedge their bets. Whether India will get that opportunity or not, the fact remains that there will be a China plus one strategy that a lot of countries are going to follow. So let me talk a little bit about the manufacturing opportunity first. So right now, India has a huge, and now I'll talk about some of the opportunities that exist in India. India has a huge opportunity for picking up the manufacturing. Today, this morning, I was at a press conference where the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology actually released a policy to drive manufacturing in India. They have come out with a production-linked incentive program for manufacturers to manufacture in India. They are also driving the whole ecosystem development for component manufacturing in India. And they are also creating electronic manufacturing centers. These are large industrial parks where factories can be located. So a lot of infrastructure investment, a lot of incentives that have been put forth. But there is a big opportunity now for India to pick up with people moving out of China. Why is India a good opportunity? Our per capita income is 1/5 of China. So we can actually theoretically drive far more efficient costs. We have a deeply skilled, talented population, not only in software, but now we are getting more skilled in the more hardware side of the business as well. Oil prices are at an all-time low, so investments costs would be low. We have a large consuming population, so if we manufacture in India, we don't have to spend too much on logistics for those products to be consumed. And I do expect that the country will start bouncing back once they get used to living with the COVID pandemic. We have a demographic dividend. 80% of our population is under the 50 years of age. And that is a big advantage, not only from an employment point of view, but also from a consumption standpoint. We have leadership in software. Amongst the best software companies in the world have been born in India. So there is that opportunity. And then, like I mentioned, government's intent and incentive and investment in infrastructure has never been to the level that it is right now. And the result of that is there are over 200 companies that are currently talking to the government to start manufacturing in India. And I dare say that, a lot of them will start looking at India very seriously. There have been a couple of German companies that have already shifted their manufacturing from China China to India. Birkenstock, one of the footwear companies, is a case in point that has moved recently from China to India. And the government has also taken steps. Like I said, they've unlocked 1.0 has been announced. The economic stimulus package for self-reliance that the Prime Minister and his team have announced, focusing on a faster growing economy, pushing for infrastructure, pushing for technology-linked systemic changes, focusing on the younger population to drive demand and supply revival. So there have been some steps that the government has taken. They have released a package. Now there is a big debate around whether it is actually 10% or it is less than 10%. But prima facie, if I just take the 20 lakh crore number, I agree a lot of it is through monetary policy and less on the fiscal side. But they have announced some steps, and I know that they are aggressively following up. I do believe that the MSME package that they've announced and the agriculture packages are good. They are providing liquidity, loans and access to credit for some of the MSMEs. They have talked about developing infrastructure for the low and the middle class households, and they have increased the support of the Manrega to create employment at the lowest, in the lower economic section. So they have taken some bold steps. Right now, it is, of course, that isn't just enough. They have also taken some bold steps, like I mentioned, like this production-linked incentive scheme, the scheme to promote component manufacturing in India. There is a remission on duties and taxes. There are duty drawback schemes to focus on export from India. There is also the electronics manufacturing cluster scheme, where they are setting up these large industrial parks. And for all this, they have actually set aside almost 41,000 crores over a period of 5 years to incentivize manufacturing, at least in the mobile device and electronic space. There's been some steps that the government has taken. But it would be wrong for me to say that everything is hunky-dory and things are, all set to take off. There's still a lot of work. I believe the incentives that the states provide, the grants, the subsidies, I think that needs to be focused on by the state governments. They need to attract investment into their states. The investment in infrastructure, while the electronics manufacturing clusters have been set up, there is still, it's just at the planning phase that has to be implemented. If you go and see the EMC clusters in other parts of the world, they are extremely, extremely sophisticated. We really need to get these large EMCs off the ground, 200 plus acre be put in place. The implementation by states, I think there needs to be like a ease of doing business index across states. Some states are better than others in terms of implementing this. And I think all states need to lean in to try and attract investment and make the execution a lot simpler. There needs to be reform in the land laws governing land acquisition. There need to be reforms governing labor. People should find it easier to get the titling of the land. People should find it easier. The government enterprises should find it easier to hire labor and even downsize if required. Of course, keeping in mind proper due diligence. But the implementation, the last mile, the approvals, special cells should be set up to make sure that the approvals are fast-tracked and they are done in a more efficient way. But we can't expect the government to do everything. I think the industry too has a huge responsibility to start investing in cutting-edge technology. We shouldn't try and play catch-up with China. We should try and leapfrog them. I mean, do what we did with mobile devices. With mobile devices and 3G, 4G connections, India as a nation leapfrogged a lot of the Western world because we didn't have the legacy of fixed line like they had. Similarly, we should leapfrog the other manufacturing hubs in the world by focusing on new age technologies like robotics, like AI, like machine learning, like biotechnology, genetic engineering. Those are the areas which are high intellectually highly valued industries that we should invest in, and we should look to growing our presence and our competence in those areas. So Overall, if I try and look into the crystal ball and see what the business will look like, there are a few points that I've made, and of course, this is not exhaustive. I do believe in the new world, which I don't call post-COVID. I just call it the COVID world because COVID is here and we have to learn to live with it. We will see simplification of business models. We will see new businesses that will emerge. Like I said, consumption is not going to go away, but consumer behavior is likely to change. So in line with that behavior, we will see some new businesses emerge. We will see companies invest in digital transformation to accelerate their move to the digital world. We will see fewer physical offices. TCS, for example, has already announced that by 2025, they will have only 25% of their workforce sitting in offices and 75% will be working from home. So we will see fewer physical offices. We will see the end of the open format office where you just plug and play in a table and you don't have rooms. I believe we will see the re-emergence of cabins and rooms like it used to be about 20, 30 years ago, and still exists in some companies to adhere to social distancing protocols. Employee well-being and resilience will become very important. We will see more collaborations in the industries. People will look for efficiencies. While consumption takes a hit in some of the sectors, the scale comes down. Your fixed costs are no longer able to justify the volumes that you have, and therefore that is likely to result in mergers, in acquisitions, in collaborations. You will see people operate more efficiently. You will see, things like travel coming down. People will only travel if it is essential. Because employees are likely to sit in remote locations, you will see that companies will actually drive culture by design. Sometimes, the culture just evolves as people come together. But now, because people are going to be remote, a lot of the people are going to be remote. They're going to be, cultures are going to be driven more purposefully. They're going to look for resilience in people because, there will be a lot of changes that are likely to happen. And the other great thing that will happen is diversity in the workplace will increase. For example, you don't need to relocate to a Hyderabad or to a Bangalore or to a Bombay or to a Cochin. You can be where you are and do most of the jobs. Of course, those jobs that require physical presence is different, the services industries and physical services industries and so on. But a lot of the industries where you don't need the physical presence, people can probably plug in and play from anywhere. And even employers will become a lot more tolerant and a lot more accepting of remote working. So I believe the diversity is likely to go up. You could probably have your employees sitting in the US and working for you while you are running a company here in India. I do expect work-life balance to improve. People will be, juggling between work and life continuously. But I do expect stress levels to go up because there won't be that line between work and life. You'll be almost always at work if you're not careful. Technology will become more ubiquitous. People who are not technologically inclined will also be forced to get technologically inclined because that's going to become, pretty much the par for the course. And the gig economy, which is the freelance economy, will rule. You will find people will not want to get tied down by a job. They'll take multiple part-time jobs because they can sit on a computer and do it. So the gig economy, I do expect, will start will start to improve. So what is it that leaders should therefore do today? A few things that I put down that, I believe that leaders need to do in today's world. One is, of course, to look out for your people. Prepare for the opening up. So now that the opening up is happening, we should make sure that the opening up happens in a very, very careful manner. People don't rush in because that could be counterproductive. You could get a second wave, which we want to avoid. We have to ensure business is continuous and continuity. We need to fortify our liquidity, make sure we have enough money in the bank while the markets are still trying to sort themselves out. We need to survive, cut costs. We need to reinforce our supply, make sure the supply is there, but I think that has already been taken care of by most companies. But now we need to plan to spur the demand so that consumers come out of their houses and start shopping and consuming. Meanwhile, what we need to do is we need to relook at our purpose of our organizations. We need to agree what is the strategy we will follow in the new world, because the new world is going to be very, very different. And we need to start planning for it. We need to see how we accelerate our digital transformation and smart work. How are we able to manage an organization where 50-60% of the people don't come to office, they work from their remote locations, and they are only a face on a screen or a voice at the end of the line? How are we able to manage them? How are we able to motivate them? And how are we able to understand their well-being? We need to identify the talents for the new world. And like I said, gone are the days where you just get a BTech or an MBA or a BA or a BSc, and then you're done and you get into the workforce and you expect to learn on the job. Now we're going to be requiring to continuously update and upgrade our skills. The way business is going to change with the onset of Industry 4.0, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, with deep learning, with consumer IoT coming in, with blockchain technologies coming in, with robotics, with 3D printing. All these newer technologies are just going to transform the way that we do business and the way we live our lives. And unless we teach ourselves and we continuously upgrade our skills and build our competencies, it's likely that we can get repositioned very fast. So identify the talents that are able to do it. Learning agility and resilience, I think, are going to be the two qualities that are going to be most sought after in the new world. But how are we as leadership expect to operate? We need to be more empathetic. We need to have more empathy, because we are not going to be meeting our employees, and understand that when you meet your employees, there are a lot of non-verbal cues that you can pick up to understand the emotional health of your employee. Now you're not going to be able to do that. Now it's just going to be a very professional relationship over a call or over the phone. Of course, not in all cases, but in most cases it will be the case. And therefore, we need to be more inclusive. We need to include the employees, give them an opportunity to speak and to make sure that they are heard. We need to be clear on what our strategy is and a clarity of vision. We need to play what is known as the infinite game. We cannot be in it for the finite game, because if you are playing the infinite game and if you are working towards a purpose that is larger than you and your organization, then no disruption can really upset you. So we need to be strategic and have very clear vision of where we are taking the organization. We need to empower our people and make sure that we are more result oriented, because we have to define the results very carefully, because like I said, you're not going to interact with the employees as much. So you need to know exactly what they have to deliver, and you should have an extremely clear evaluation system that you can evaluate what that person has delivered. Continuous upskilling, I have said, we have to build an environment of trust, because, when people are sitting 100 miles away at their laptops, at their computers, working remote, their mind works overtime. And the smallest of things can get them all stressed out and upset. And they can get all worked up about, am I being valued or not? So we need to build an environment of trust, and we need to build an environment of collaboration. But I think the most important part will be the communication. The top down and the bottom up, two-way communication is going to become more and more important for us to not only communicate what is in our minds to drive the organization, but for also the employee and the teams to communicate upwards for the leaders to hear exactly what's on their minds. So it's going to become very, very important. I'm even seeing that, leadership teams are having tea parties over Zoom. I think those kind of informal get-togethers are very, very important. They do a world of difference to the emotional health of the employees. So the new normal is going to impact our lives in, our day-to-day lives, coming away from the professional side, day-to-day lives. Less socialization and more distancing is going to become the norm. Health and hygiene is going to become extremely, extremely important. People are going to be paranoid about it. I do expect overseas vacations to come down, but local tourism to rise. That's another opportunity that I see in India. We've got such beautiful places. And of course, Kerala is the mother of all local tourism destinations. So, I expect this tourism to start to rise once, we are across after the whole lockdown situation. I do expect families to now really value the small things of being close to your near and dear ones. I do expect, as it is, you are seeing this whole emigration piece is becoming more and more difficult. I think the next generation is going to be less globally mobile, in my opinion, at least for some time, than it was in our generation, when, suddenly things had opened up and people started to move out. I think homes are going to be planned differently. All of us will have demarcated workspaces and entertainment spaces, and technology will become a way of life. All of us will become, experts at the basics of technology. Initially, at least for the next 6 to 9 months, I expect people to go out less and socialize in restaurants. I expect people to call in more. Industry 4.0, remote, robo, contactless engagements will increase. No mass congregation cricket matches, etc. You're already seeing the way the English Premier League, the football leagues are opening up. They are creating noise through speakers in the stadiums, but the stadiums are totally empty. I believe the England West Indies series also is likely to be hosted in England, if I'm not mistaken, and they're playing it in 2 stadiums that have hotels attached with no spectators. It'll all be streamed and it'll all be seen live over television. And they're going to 2 months ago. So it's really interesting to see. But with crisis comes opportunities. And this, like I said, consumption of cricket will not change. The way we consume it will change. And that's exactly what is happening right now. I think I'll just stop my video. Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, it's an age-old cliche that with crisis comes opportunity. And I see this as an opportunity. And to be very honest, I'm already looking to, what do I do next? And what do I do in the new world? And how do I, in many ways, future-proof myself in the new world and actually look at opportunities that come up in the COVID era. So I firmly believe that with every crisis comes opportunity. So these are the few tips that, I mean, I just thought, some of them you would see relevant, some maybe not. Some of them these are the ones that I'm trying to continuously teach myself, but just my personal reflections. My reflection right now is that the job market is going to be under turmoil. So if possible, and I know this is going to be difficult because there is a lot of businesses are getting impacted and they're not able to afford to even pay their employees, unfortunately. But I think as leaders, we should try to retain as many of our employees as we can. Maybe take pay hits, pay cuts, furloughs, but we should try and make sure that that we take care of them. But it's easier said than done. Often it's very difficult to do that. But if we have an option, we should stay put in the job or the business that we're doing for a year, because the world has undergone turmoil and it has to sort itself out. We need to digitize ourselves, get more familiar with IT services, remote working tools, get on to the massive online open courses, teach ourselves, learn Industry 4.0 skills. We need to be agile and optimistic. We need to be resilient. We need to be open for change. We need to say that, okay, what we are doing today, tomorrow is likely to change. There is a theory that says that 65% of the children who are entering grade 1 today will do a job that does not exist today. That's the rate at which the world is changing. So we need to be ready for change, and we need to prepare everybody around us for change and be optimistic about the future, because the future can only be better than today. We need to think like an entrepreneur and think of new companies, new ideas, put ourselves in the shoes of a consumer in the COVID era and see how we will behave and what opportunities are likely to re-emerge and emerge from there. And then brainstorm with friends, colleagues, families, and see what are the opportunities that are there, and then decide what one would like to do. And really prepare yourself through maniacal focus of acquiring those skills. So it's not rocket science the way I see it. I know there are a few things that are going to really accelerate. And in the COVID era, we have said IT, for example, is one. We have said healthcare, etc., is another area that is going to do well. We said education technology is going to be a big area. We should either be part of education technology or leverage education technology to really upskill ourselves on various things. There will be people who will require help, counseling, So it's a world that if we are able to sit down for some time and kind of picturize how things will be in a few months, or even brainstorm, you will find that there will be a lot of opportunities that will come that were not there in the past. I see the digital transformation of this country actually accelerating. And I was part of a roundtable a couple of days ago where we were talking about the $1 trillion digital economy of India. And unanimously, there were 5 or 6 of our CEOs that were around the table, and we agreed that that is something, if anything, will only accelerate. I do expect, manufacturing in India, for example, this year in 2019, we manufactured 330 million phones, mobile phones. In 2014, we manufactured only about 50. So we've grown 6x in 6 years. And now our challenge is to go from 330 to 1 billion phones by 2025. And of the billion phones, we are looking to export 600 million phones in 2025. So, a lot of this has got accelerated by the COVID pandemic because, the need has arisen and it has acted like a catalyst. Similarly, for us individually, there could be a lot of opportunity that we could have going into the future. And therefore, I do believe that it is a time to reboot ourselves. And while I over the last years, I've always looked for a quotation to end my presentations, and I found I invariably come back to this, that it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one that's most responsive to change. So I do believe agility, optimism, resilience, openness to change is fundamentally important in today's day and age. With that, I'd like to close my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope you and your families are safe. I know Kerala has been way ahead of the curve in managing this COVID crisis. I must congratulate you and everybody in Kerala for doing such a fantastic job and showing the rest of the country the way. But it still is good to be prudent and to be safe. So be safe, and thank you very much. Handing back to you, Mr. Sumit.
Thank you, Ajay. It was an excellent presentation. You go through the entire aspects of the subject. Now we quickly move to the question answer session. Here, Engineer Alex P. George is also IIT IM. He raised a hand. Sir, please unmute and ask your question, please. Alex P. George. Okay. Sound is not visible, audible.
Hello.
Yeah. Sir, unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you
yes,
hear me
yes.
now?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, Ajay. I'm actually IIT Madras 76. I am C78.
Oh, good evening,
So
sir.
nice meeting you.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. Yes.
Yeah. My question is, China is likely to exit its position as the factory of the world. And India has a great potential to occupy that space. As you know, India's potential has always been high, but performance not up to the mark. And I feel that governance has been a major constraint. Do you see change in governance happening quick enough to utilize this opportunity?
Yes, sir. So it's a very, very good question. In fact, between Jan and February, there were a number of companies that moved out of China, and actually a lot of that business went to Vietnam and Indonesia and not to India. But what I can say, if I talk about my industry, like I said, back in 2014, there were 2 factories for mobile devices. Today, there are 268 factories of mobile devices. And how did that happen? That happened through a very, very concerted effort between the industry and the government. There was a phased manufacturing program where we were given tax holidays on imports of components, so that you could import components at a lower duty rate for a couple of years till we built our component ecosystem in India, and then we had to pay, of course, full duties on it. So based on that, our manufacturing went up. However, our gross value add in India was not that high, and we've actually opened assembly units rather than manufacturing in factories. So that is an area where there has been a lot of focus. Our exports have gone up from about $1 billion year before last to $3.5 billion this year. So that has also improved. Every phone, almost 98% of the phones that are sold in India are made in India, but I would say more assembled in India. Now, what has happened, and today only I was in that press conference where the government has released for the mobile device and electronics industry 3 schemes, incentive schemes, totaling up to almost $6 billion. And that is, one is production linked incentive, where you get an incentive on every product, every phone that you sell over the amount you sold in 2019, you get an incentive of 6%. Then there is the SPEC scheme, which is the special promotion for electronic components and semiconductors. So that is to build your component ecosystem in India, where you again get 2 to 3% incentive. You get 25% incentive on the capital that you invest. And then they are coming up with something known as the ROTTEP, that is remission of duties, where you get a duty drawback if you were to export it. So really there is, if you're exporting from India, there's 8 to 9% incentive that is available from the government. And if you're manufacturing for India, there is 5 to 6% available.
I agree that in certain sectors,
Yes.
There has been a great change.
Yes.
Do you see that transforming to other sectors as well, or translating to other sectors as well?
Yes. So I do expect, and what I've been interacting with the government, there's been a lot of active, a lot of activity going on in the other industries, in the medical equipment industry and so on. But even if I come back to my industry, while these policies are there is still a long way to go before they really get implemented. So, the implementation at a state level, our labor laws, our land laws, these are bottlenecks which have scared people away. I have spoken to people who've been wanting to invest in India, and they have tried, and they have got, they've really gone away. Some states, of course, are ahead of others, but there is still a lot of implementation. I mean, at the end of the day, it is an orchestra that has to work. The state government.
No, Vietnam, Thailand, and all those countries are really utilizing this opportunity and may grab that space from us, which rightly belong to us.
I totally agree. And they have, until Jan Feb, there were a lot, like I said, a lot of countries that moved out of China. See, for a China, Vietnam is like a China outside China, because the whole governance, the whole government, the way that place is run, it's run like the military, there's discipline and so on. India, on the other hand, the perception is that, things are sometimes can go out of control. Sometimes things work, things take time, things slow down. So while there is these incentives laid out in electronics, and I'm sure they'll be laid out in the other industries also, finally, the proof of the pudding is in the how the states come together and actually are able to drive the. Are the approvals able to come faster? Are you able to acquire land a lot faster? Are you able to hire and change your organization and your labors a lot faster? Those kind of things, I think those basics have to be taken care of. A lot of work from the government to try to address that. So it's, all I can say is, now is an opportunity that I think we've never had before to drive this. If we can't do it now, I think we are missing an opportunity. So to answer your question, yes, there is a big opportunity. Yes, the intent from the government is definitely there, but there is still a lot of work to be done in terms of taking it to fruition.
Thank you, Ajay. We have plenty of questions. We will quickly take one by one. Now, may I request our past president and former chairman of CSB Bank Limited, P.S. Anandaraman sir, please unmute yourself and ask.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes. Hello.
Am I audible?
Sir, sound is low.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Hello. Sir, sound not audible now.
Hello?
Yes, now correct.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Please go quiet.
Sir, please switch off your video.
Hello?
Yeah, and sir, please proceed. Ask a question, please. I think, hello.
I think there's some audio problems.
Yeah. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was an incredible presentation, Ajay, one of the best lectures I have heard in recent times.
Thank you, sir.
You are talking about a complete change in attitudes. I have some doubts on that. You see, when television screens came, there was a talk that theaters are going to be disappearing. But we have found that theaters merged in as multiplex or in some other format. When there was a flood here, we started telling that life is going to completely change. But a couple of after flood, we are back to normalcy, the way we were acting, the way beings are social animals. Would this distancing thing, is it getting a bit overplayed?
So, in my opinion,
will we not like to be together with each other?
Yeah. So, again, like I said, if you look at the, I'm going back to a little bit of theory here, but you have the Maslow's hierarchy. The first is the physiological need, then is the social need. So if you feel unsafe and insecure stepping out of the house or coming close to people, the first thing you will do is to isolate yourself, because the first thing you want to do is survive. When you're in survival mode, then all your social needs and your higher order needs tend to get put on the back burner. So my belief is till such time this pandemic fear is there and there is no vaccine or the herd immunity is not set in for the next, say, maybe 9 to 12 months, maybe even more, I do believe that people will find other ways in which to socialize without any contact, because that is something that is going to be driven as a life-threatening thing. Once it gets into life-threatening mode, then people tend to be a little... Secondly, when you are behaving in a certain way for an extended period of time, it tends to become a habit. In fact, the law of habit says that if you do something for 21 days, you tend to do it continuously. But this is going to be much, much more than 21 days. This is going to be like a year or maybe even more than that. But that does not mean that things will come to a standstill. I see opportunities arise. And you very, very rightly said the whole cinema experience. When the VCRs came in the 80s, we thought the cinemas were going to die. So forget about Netflix and things. But the cinemas have also, they have reimagined themselves and they've been reborn now. The kind of cinematic experience you have today with a mall and with a meal and with popcorn and with different things and 3D and so on, they have also reimagined their entire offering. So again, brings me back to the point that the consumption will continue to happen. But how that consumption happens, the behavior of the consumer and the offering and the experience, I expect will change in line with the changes that we are now seeing. So while I do believe the social distancing and people are, human beings are social animals, they will have to meet. I think while this Damocles sword of having a COVID pandemic over your head, they will find different ways to socialize. And once that lifts, I dare say people will be back. And people will be each other and hugging each other and holding hands.
The only point I wanted to add was that, you know, in villages, I come from a village as well. So I was there last week. I thought the life there was exactly, say, very little had changed, whereas in the cities, the changes were much more dominant, and the majority of India lives in villages. I just wanted to add that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, sure. That's a very, very, very good insight.
Thank you, Antarama sir, for nice question. Now, Dr. Shantakumar, Chartered Accountant Shantakumar. Sir, please unmute and ask your questions. Our past president, TMA, Shantakumar. Please unmute yourself, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, now, so, yeah, you can go ahead.
So since Mr. Soni has used a plural, I will ask more than one question if you don't mind. Now, my first question is, in the beginning of your speech, which was excellent, you had mentioned that Moody's have downgraded India and stock markets have taken a hit. But my question is, with the G7 and other countries developing an apathy towards China, where could the investment funds go to get a decent return for their funds?
So there are the, like I said, the industries, of course, IT is definitely one where you will get a quicker return. My thinking is it depends on the time frame that you're looking for a return. India will bounce back. India will come back and India will come back stronger. We are a strong consuming nation. We have a demographic dividend of 80% of our population less than 50 years of age. We have a very skilled population. We are an English-speaking nation. The fundamentals are all there. So it's a matter of time that India comes back. Now, if somebody is investing in India, depending on the time frame, I do believe there are various industries you can invest in. So, for example, I think entertainment and food services, etc., would be a longer time frame for returns to come. IT, telecom related industry 4.0, digital services, those will give you returns a lot faster in the near term. So again, if I look at a 3 to 4 year horizon, I do believe all sectors are likely to bounce back. Question is, when do they start bouncing? Some will be sooner, some will be later. If you want a faster return, I think the digital services, digital transformation, industry 4.0, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, telecom services, telecom ancillary services, those I think will come back a lot faster. The other ones like discretionary spend, utilities, food, agro, I think these also will come back faster. But discretionary spends, luxuries, luxury consumer goods, things like travel, tourism, tourism part of it, local tourism could come back, but overall tourism, I believe will take a little bit of a hit. Entertainment, those will take a little longer to come back.
Mr. Mehta, my question was, even if there is a downgrade by the Moody's,
yes, sir.
These investment funds have no other place to go, so they will stay. That's my question.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I agree with you. The fact is, the reason I had put that up was because that's a phenomenon not happened in 22 years. We are just seeing that there are things that are happening that have never happened in this country in a couple of decades. This generation, for example, has not seen. But that does not mean that that things will not come back and investments will not come in. In fact, I would say the opportunity to grow in India is probably the most, but it will take some time for the confidence to come back. That is what I believe.
I agree with you. My second question is, how do you see the future of Reliance Retail using the Jio platform? Because the only thing that Reliance can at best boast is having laid fiber optic cable across the length and breadth of the country. When Amazon is planning to come with satellite-based activity, do they stand to have an advantage actually?
Yeah, so Jio, for example, is for sure is, so I've been being in this space. I've seen the kind of work Jio has done. Of course, now we are seeing some of it emerge, but they have built their entire back-end ecosystem. They have Jio Home, Jio Car, Jio POS, Jio, and you're seeing it now, Jio Mart is out and so on. So I do see that Jio definitely has a head start over a lot of the others who are there in the industry. I mean, they took of course, they had they were financially strong to do it, but they took a punt of launching a pure 4G network with no 3G and 2G fallback. Now that is a big risk that you take, but they have done it. They have executed it. They also launched a Jio phone, which was a 4G feature phone. They disrupted the feature phone industry, and they also accelerated the move of 2G, 3G to 4G. So that is from a telecom point of view. From a fiber to the home point of view, yes, they have been ahead of the curve. They've still got a lot to do. They are still not quite there. But if you ask me, do they have the advantage? Yes, they have I think they have a head start, apart from the fact that they have 375 million subscribers to Jio, which is already a consumer base that they can reach out to. Now they are working with Facebook, leveraging their WhatsApp, their WhatsApp messaging service to connect with almost 3 crore retailers in the market to give them an end-to-end ERP tool for the small mom and pop shops, which is an amazing, which is absolutely an amazing initiative. So yes, I believe they have a head start over some of the other competitors that are out there.
Now technology is changing rapidly. Whatever fiber optic cables they have laid will all become junk in the short run.
Well, I don't think so, because now with increasing use of remote work and work from home, the bandwidth requirement is just going up and up. I mean, right now, if you see, our consumption in India is 11 GB per person per week or per day. I'm forgetting this thing, but our usage of data is amongst the highest in the world, and the number of people also is higher. So I do believe that network will actually be required all the more. In fact, in my house, I am having to take the bandwidth up because we are all working from home and we need that bandwidth. So I believe that the market for that is only going to increase actually.
My last question is, nobody knows when the recovery will be taking place, but when the recovery takes place, will it be in the form of a U shape or a V shape or a W shape, or latest you hear is of a Nokia shoe shape? which would be the type of recovery we will be having.
What was the last one? Sorry, the
Nokia shoeish shape.
okay. No, I think in my opinion, that's a very difficult one actually. It all depends on how this COVID-19 thing spreads. I expect a U shape, slowly coming back of things. I don't expect there will be a small V, a little V, but then the rest of it will take some time to come back. So my expectation is the U shape if there isn't a second surge in case. Assuming that this surge continues and then it dies out, then I expect a U-shaped recovery to come, and I would expect by by Q4, calendar year Q4, I would expect by around November time things should start to come. My expectation is a U-shaped if there isn't a second surge.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, Shantakumar sir, for good questions. Now, Engineer Christo George, past president TMA and young entrepreneur. Sir, please ask question. Unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Sony. Excellent presentation by Ajey Mehta. So I want an advice from you. We are a company which is having activities up to central India with having more than 18 branches. Now, most of the activity from the branch is marketing and sales. In the present scenario, is there any possibility of closing down all the branches and work, because the sales and marketing can be done from home? So what do you think about that if we take an initiative like that? I want advice from you.
So the depends on the product, of course. If it's a physical product that you need the consumers to experience, I think you will still need a physical presence on the ground. So it depends on the product. My thinking is, if I look at my category, which is mobile phones, I don't think the offline presence, offline sales is going to disappear. It will continue to be there, right? So for example, if our consumers are buying from the retail stores, we will need our sales executives, etc., to reach the retail stores. What we are doing right now is trying to see, so how we've changed is we are trying to do home delivery now, because people are not going to retail stores. We are trying to get our sales executives to go and deliver to people's homes. We are getting our distributors to go and deliver in people's homes. We are getting the people at home to order online or send us a WhatsApp or send us a message, and then we are delivering it to people's homes. So I would imagine in the short term, there may be a little bit of an impact in on-ground sales people, but after that, you will still need them. They will come back. People will still continue to go to shops, because when people are buying things, especially when, like I said, so it depends on the product. If it's a discretionary device where they need to spend a little more, people will not buy it until, they see it, they touch and they feel it. So the offline channel will come back. But yes, in the short term, maybe you need to, in order to drive your business, you need to find a way in which you can reach the people rather than reach the retailer. The direct to consumer, if you can plan something, that would be a...
One more question. As the quality of education is improving very much through online, so what is the scope of brick and mortar colleges in the future? Will it disrupt or not?
See, education is an experience. It's not about just getting knowledge. It's about making networks. It's about visiting. It's about going to laboratories. It's about, building social bonds. Both my children are in college. They are now home and they are doing their education online. But the experience is very, very different. So brick and mortar for sure will be still very, very important, because that social interaction and when you have to do hands-on projects and when you build your community and things, it is very important to have that. And the overall experience of living in a college, living in a dorm and so on, that will be there. All I can say that the avenues of education will go up because of online. Education will get more democratized. People will have freer access to good quality education. All the leading universities will start putting some really good courses online. So you may have your college and you go start working, but once you start working, that's not the end of your education. Education you'll have to continue, and that education can carry on parallelly, because even wherever you may be in the world, you'll be able to access the best of material online. So my point is, while the brick and mortar will continue, I do believe maybe the curriculum is likely to undergo some change and be more skill and competence building oriented. And I do believe that there will be more channels available. So people who did not have earlier access to some of the education and the best of education because they didn't clear an entrance exam. Sometimes people are very skilled, but they're not good at taking exams. And unfortunately, those people don't make it to these bigger institutes or this brick and mortar place, and they, not able to get that education. Those people will have access to specific competence building education opportunities through these online courses. So I do believe that the education can get more expanded, and that is a really good thing. I myself have been educating myself on certain things. So it's a very
Thank you very much, Ajay.
Ajay, shall I take 5 more minutes?
Yeah,
we
sure.
Have, okay. Now let me ask Ananda Menon sir. You have a question. Please unmute yourself and ask questions. Past president of TMA, former.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Ajey Mehta. It was simply outstanding, brilliant, and motivating. You have really inspired all of us. I just want to have no questions to ask you. Just a small observation in 2 minutes about an entrepreneur in Kerala, in Alway, Medicat Oil Mills. They have taken this opportunity to, between 25th of March and 25th of April, coconut oil was going out of the shelves in Gulf, Taiwan, and all over places. So they imported from Indonesia, processed 3 shifts using immigrant labor, worked 24/7, and exported within this 1 month and earned foreign exchange versus for 5 crores. Moving heaven and earth to Delhi and to see that the port operations are okay, to see the license are available. As a young entrepreneur, and I think he's a classic example, Medicat Oil Mills in Alway. I think everyone should know that.
So nice.
And I really thank you, Mr. Ajay, for the beautiful insight.
No, yeah, pleasure. But it's so nice to hear these stories. I mean, there is so much enterprise in this country. I really believe if we just take advantage of this new COVID environment, we can do wonders. We don't need to travel now. We can sit in our homes and do wonders. So thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really heartening to hear. I will include that example in my presentation.
Thank you, Ananda Menon sir. Now, PK Vijaykumar sir mentioned a question. Sir, can you unmute yourself and ask question? PK Vijaykumar, IRS. Sir, please. I think he is not able to make it. Now, Engineer Vinod Manjula Dablos, our Vice President of TMA, mentioned a question. Vinod, please ask your question. You can unmute and ask your question. Please, Vinod.
Hello, Ajay. It was nice listening to you. In fact, we remember the days when D. Shivakumar, former, Nokia head, had visited Thrissur and addressed our TMA, program. So my question is, you did mention about G platform, the Geo's, E platform. How are the Kirana stores on E platform going to challenge Amazon and Flipkart? Will they survive?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. The way I see it emerge, I see, and that's what Jio is driving, an omni-channel approach that's going to happen. What Jio is going to do, in fact, the other day, there was one startup that was presented to me where they were looking to build community leaders. There are people who are on the web are not necessarily that web savvy, and especially as you go deeper and deeper into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and rural India, they are not that savvy, and it's going to take some time before they are able to really be savvy on e-commerce, and they are going to rely on alternative means of getting it. So for example, if I give you this example of this startup idea, they were talking about creating community leaders in their community. So if you are living in a community, there'll be one person who will be a leader. That person will order from this particular startup, and this startup would deliver the grocery and the food to that community leader, from whom people would come and collect it. So there are a lot of these kind of initiatives that are happening where people are not going to go purely e-commerce, but are going to rely on an omni-channel type of approach. Now, what Jio is trying to do is they are trying to digitize the Kirana, the mom and pop stores, so that their whole commercial transaction transactions, their payments, and also their ability to take orders is more convenient. And that people are then able to order from them directly online, and then they are, the whole transaction becomes online. But at the end of the day, the Kirana store business continues to thrive because they still become the nodal point for the sales to happen. So while there has been a significant growth in e-commerce, I'll give you the example of mobile devices itself. They were forecasting mobile devices to be 60 to 70% of e-commerce because it was growing at such a rapid rate 3 years ago. But it has gone and plateaued at 35 to 40%. There are still consumers who, for them, shopping is an experience. For the housewife, shopping means I want to go and see the quality of the food that I'm buying for my family. There is an inherent psyche within the consumer also where they want to touch and feel the product that they're buying. So I do believe that the offline channel will continue to play a very major role in India. What people like the likes of Amazon and Jio have to figure out is how can they drive an omni-channel? How can they bring this offline channel the conveniences of a digital experience, of a e-commerce online experience? That will be interesting to see. Somewhere it will land as an omni-channel approach, which will be part digital and part physical. But the physical channel is not going to just die away. The Kirana stores are going to continue to have pride of place and importance, especially as you go to tier 2, tier 3 and rural markets. I expect that they will continue to have importance.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Now may I request P.K. Vijaykumar sir, IRS, former insurance ombudsman and director of income tax. Please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an excellent presentation, and I have only one question to ask. That is about Zoom. See, now there is a big drive going on against using Chinese products, mainly software and hardware. And everybody says if you want to stop software, it is so easy. Hardware can take some time. So what is your take on that? I'm also fully aware that China is actually collecting information through all our Zoom meetings. I have personal information on that.
Yeah. To be honest, that's a very that's a difficult question to answer. Actually, one has to be careful of the privacy issues. One is reading a lot about how a lot of data is going into China data centers and so on. I think each of us individually needs to be more cognizant of what is it that we are giving our approval for. Whenever we are downloading an app, there's a question that comes, deny and allow, and invariably all of us are just putting allow. So we need to be a little careful. That is one. Secondly, I think even from a statutory and a regulatory and an authority point of view, I think the authorities need to build policies and laws that take into consideration the privacy and the security of the individual. I think that also is very, very important. And not just about China or about any country. And I don't want to talk about a specific country here, but I think we need to create an environment in India where the individual's privacy and security is not compromised. Of course, if there is a health-related scare like what's going on, there may be some amount of compromise for the sake of the overall well-being of the population. But assuming all things are normal, I think we need to build an environment where it is not compromised. So you may, for example, say that data centers have to be located in the country that you're based in, or they're located in certain select countries where you feel that you're more comfortable, etc. So those things have to happen. Now, when it comes to China, I know there's this Mr. Sonam Wangchuk's
that has become viral.
Has been doing the rounds and things. Now that's a very personal position that everybody will have to take and decide what is your preference, whether you want to or not. I mean, just a blanket statement like that can even affect the economy. If you see my industry, 70% of our products are Chinese products. And I would say every single product has some kind of connect with the supply chain in China. So there's no such thing as just a non-Chinese product. Maybe Samsung to some extent you could say is purely Korean or whatever. But I'm saying that is really taking a radical position. I think we need to be a little more sensible about it and see what are the risks that we are likely to face. and target that rather than target we should target the cause of it rather than the rendition of what we are seeing. Let's say the brand all China products. Rather than that, we see why, what is the reason, what is it? Now, if there's a nationalistic approach to it, then again, it becomes a very, very individual thing that everybody has to decide that I want to go Indian and so on. But again, this whole thing about India, there is a lot of fear that India will go back where you get into that license Raj type of thing. And I think that is not a solution. India is now too globally integrated to not continue to be globally integrated. But I think some of the initiatives being taken by the government to push for Indian manufacturing, etc. I think apart from the fact that it builds our own competence and our skills, it also provides employment to millions and millions of people. I think that is a good thing, but we should not forget that there are certain things we will just not be able to do as well as some of the other countries in the world. And we need to integrate into those countries and those supply chains to make sure that we are not delivering Indian products, but we're delivering world-class products from India. And if we have to tap into supply chains globally, we should do that and make sure we are delivering those world-class products. I think that would be my approach.
Thank
Okay.
you,
When you think India will be self-sufficient in the matter of smartphones instead of depending on Samsung and iPhones and all?
No, Samsungs and iPhones, I think as brands will continue. But when it comes to the whole supply chain, I don't think we can be self-sufficient. We will be reliant on other parts of the world. Like I said, India cannot be totally self-reliant. We'll need to integrate ourselves to the global supply chain. Then we'll be self-reliant. But we will have to pull from various. We just need to make sure we are hedging our bets. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. But at the end of the day, the output should be a world-class product for our consumers. And what we need to do to deliver that, we should see. We have the best of resources, the best of talent in India to do it. And we should do it, but we should not disconnect from the global supply chain because there'll be some countries who will always do some aspect of the supply chain better than us. So we should do what we are good at. They should do what they are good at. Both of us should come together and create the best product that we can provide for the consumer.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now, Mr. Rajivan as well as CA Venugopal raise the hand. Unmute yourself and ask for questions. I think the left. Anyway, I think in chat box we got a lot of appreciation words. It was excellent presentation and injected the positivity among the participants. Very sure. I recollect the moment when we are attending the National Management Convention of the IMAT Chennai. B. Shivkumar was handling the session. Initially, he asked, how many of you have, it's years back, maybe 10 or 11 years back, he asked, how many of you have smartphone? Okay, everyone raised the hand. Next question was, how many of you have the Nokia phones? Everyone. So I wish under your able leadership, Nokia will come again.
Thank you,
and
sir.
India will be the hub for manufacturing of Nokia, and wish you all the best. And now, thank you, Ajay. It was a wonderful session. Moving to our Honorary Secretary, Srijo Komal, for vote of thanks. Srijo, please.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Ajay.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah, before I go to vote of thanks, I have a question. One question is, how do you think Kerala can sell to the world now?
I think,
as you said, we are well advanced in all the sectors now. How do you think we as manufacturers and entrepreneurs in Kerala should utilize this, and how should we sell to the world?
I think one of the highest skilled states in the country. When I was there in Calicut, I remember going to the IT park over there, and I interacted with some of the entrepreneurs. They're some of the best and the brightest that I interacted with. So in terms of the skills, in terms of the awareness, in terms of the global integration also, I think probably the most advanced state in the country. The mobility, international mobility of the people in Kerala is so high. So the understanding of global trends and global ways, so on, are so high. I do see a massive opportunity over there. Like I said, more the higher order, intellectually higher order skills that are prevalent in Kerala. I think it's a state that is fully prepared to show the way in the industry 4.0 environment, because that is where you're going to require the higher order skills. Blockchain, for example, I mean, it's another 10 years away, but that is huge. Consumer IoT, we are talking about trillion consumer IoT devices by 2035. Each of us will be carrying will be connected to some 100 sensors in the next 5 years. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, these are higher order skills, which I do believe, given the level of IT capability and the skills capability in Kerala, I think you have a very, very huge opportunity to deliver in that space. So yes, in my view, I think one of the best states to leverage this current opportunity in this environment.
Sijo, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay, for your tips. But it was more on IT and all those things. I don't know how about hardware and other products. We would like to see turning Kerala into an export zone or something like that. That is one where I would like to see an opportunity also.
But for sure, there's no reason why not, because you have the skilled labor, you have the land, you have the international connections and the routes. So those are the fundamentals that are needed. I see no reason why not. I see absolutely no reason why not. So long as there is a willing labor force that is willing to do it, I see no reason why not.
Very true. Very true. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ajay. And I'd like to thank you for that excellent presentation. As you can read the comments, most of them are thrilled to see you as well as to go through your presentation, an excellent presentation. It was a wonderful opportunity to meet you also. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Sony for once more for connecting with the Nokia Connect. It was an excellent effort, and of course the technical team behind for giving us the clarity in all this presentation. And of course, all the past presidents and TMA members and other members who came in and left also for staying with us and listening to a wonderful speaker, Ajey Mehta. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a privilege and an honor to address all of you. Really, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Soni, for
Yeah. Thank you, Ajay. With this, we come to end of this session. A million thanks to Ajay. Thank you, all the members, for sparing their precious time with the TMA. Thank you.